I had a vision of this business 7 years actually before we started it. And then I found one. I just happened to come across one because I needed a place for my daughter, and I was frantically trying to find one. And I found this business model that was similar to what I had in mind. And they told me how much it cost to get it up and running, which was about $150,000. Unfortunately, at the time, I was unemployed. I lost, or my job was terminated. I was a VP at an organization, and my job was terminated, and I could not find a job. I went back to school to get my master's degree, and it was just a challenging time, that particular season of my life. And I was almost unemployed for almost 3 years. And I would have never thought that with, some of my social capital that I had, degrees and all of this, but it was very challenging.
All right, so help me understand Rotarian at Work. Give me a breakdown.
Yeah, we're a member organization, an international member organization. Our motto is to service over self. And so we do a lot of service projects all over the world.
I love that, service over self. I feel like that is the epitome of, what my Airbnb journey has been about, and what many other Superhost, ambassador, community leaders' journey has been about, serving a community that comes through and providing a quality experience to families, to business travelers, to medical professionals, to everyone that comes at our door.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about how we can make a difference in other people's lives. That's a part of our journey. We're not here just to be here, right? We have a purpose. There's a plan for us, and part of that plan is how we give back and help to others.
Okay, and so in the plan, did you always see Airbnb being a part of your plan for your life?
No, not at all. Entrepreneurship for sure. I'm a third generational entrepreneur. So I was with my grandfather years ago when he was out doing multiple things, at multiple businesses. I remember at least 4 different businesses at one time. And I was a part of that. And then my father and mom started their own business and ran it for 44 years. And so for me, that was a natural transition, but Airbnb was one of those vehicles that just kind of happened. My daughter actually went to school at Virginia Tech, and I was trying to, we live in North Carolina, Virginia Tech is in Virginia, and I wanted to see if she can get residency so we wouldn't have to pay out-of-state tuition. And we said, you know what, we'll buy a house, not far from where she lives, and then we'll do corporate rental or perhaps Airbnb. And that's really how I got started with it. So it wasn't necessarily intentional, but it turned out to be absolutely great.
That's awesome. And that was how long ago?
That was 4 years. Yep. I think in 2019. Yeah. Matter of fact, October 2019.
Wow. So time flies, and here we are today, and the platform has changed a lot with some of the focuses. We recently this year had the launching of the rooms feature on the platform. And I believe that saw a huge boost in traffic to the site, up like 30-40%. And it's in response to, some of the struggles that members of our community face with, dealing with the affordability of childcare, dealing with the inflationary effects of, goods being more expensive than they previously were as a result of, manufacturing plants shutting down and still having to ramp back up and catch up to demand post-COVID, or the warehousing structures like, the Amazons and what have you, placing priority on certain types of products, and there being, again, a further backlog in the distribution of other products. There's a lot of stress and, not only the everyday consumer, but just the everyday individual. And so when you consider like the cost of living being something that's growing at a rapid pace. I think, in the states, Florida, New York, and I want to say California, the average cost of living for rent is about 30 to 35% of an individual's income. And so I can totally see Airbnb's responsiveness to try to offer a economical approach to stays through the rooms service. Can you talk about some of your experience with some of the other features that they've added to the platform from a host perspective and how that's helped you be successful today?
Yeah, there are a lot of changes, and I don't. It's hard for me to keep up with all of them. To be honest with you, we run multiple businesses, uh, but I think about our guests and the challenges that they have, and so certain things, tools now that people could use is make it a little bit easier. For example, um, the cleaning fees. That's something that really, kind of stood out to me before I owned the Airbnb, just to, stay at one. I was like, wow, people can just charge whatever they want for cleaning fees. And I've seen them as high as $500, and I've seen them as low as $10, I mean, it just depends on the host. But I like the way now that Airbnb is being more transparent about what the actual cost is. And Josh, this in terms of how difficult it is when you're trying to book something and you see one price and you say, "Oh, I can afford this. This is feasible." And I'm going with other people in my family. I'm giving them a breakdown on how much it's going to cost, and then bam, once you get the total, is $150, $200 more. And just having that transparency and being able to share that with our host, the host that we work with, has been, pivotal to them understanding how they could be better hosts to their guests.
That's awesome. And so you started in 2019. I believe we started, time flies. I want to say 2015, 2016.
Okay.
And this was when Airbnb was somewhat newer. It was still a lesser known entity in the hospitality space. And over time, we've seen this, rush of sorts of hosts of people to the platform to, participate in the business model. And, considering the tremendous upside that you've experienced and I've experienced that many have experienced, it's warranted. I totally get that, right? Because we're all looking for ways to make assets out of liabilities. And typically, the average homeowner's property is a liability when you consider the fact that most people spend upwards of 50% of their monthly disposable income on, their living expense. And so when you can recapture a lot of that earning and put it back in your pocket and distribute it throughout the community in other ways, you become an economic engine. And who doesn't want to have that for themselves? And so my next question is, a lot of people entered the space, but they did so in a rash and abrupt way, and they did not do it fundamentally sound in, how they purchase properties, how they lease properties if they were doing the arbitrage model. And they're currently dealing with a very tumultuous environment in terms of, interest rates and the slowing in demand in the travel sector. That bottom line can really be impacted and the profitability of their business can be impacted. As someone who is a career entrepreneur who is investing in multiple businesses, can you speak about having a balanced approach and, not necessarily putting all your eggs in one basket, and how you envision Airbnb, contributing to your entrepreneurial journey moving forward?
Yeah, I really believe in diversification. Whether we're talking about, stocks or finances, it's important that real estate is a part of that portfolio. Bottom line, and I tell people this all the time, you have to have something that you own, right? And people can debate whether it's land or actual real estate. One of my friends, that's all he does is buy land, and he buys it all over the country. And he said, Baron, you got to buy some of this land, man. And I always say, yeah, you do own land as well, but I like that tangible real estate that we can use because of the flexibility of it. And so when we start thinking about our portfolios and how important it is to use real estate as this engine, this vehicle for wealth. One of my projects that I work on is called the Wealth Gap Simulator, and I have a business partner, and we share with people how the wealth gap actually was created and laws that really was detrimental to that wealth gap existing. And one thing that I always say to people is buy real estate because that helps you. It cuts into that wealth gap, and you can start leaving assets to your children. When I think about my children who are getting older, when we go or pass away, whatever, they will have money, just based on the real estate that we have. So just thinking about it from that perspective, I believe it's important to have, stocks and 401ks and all these other vehicles. We do some other things, but in terms of business, also being able to bring in additional income outside of your job. We call it the gig economy, right? And it's very popular. Everybody is doing something to make additional money. And that's really important for people to be able to do that. So you have income coming from money, coming from your job, income coming from a side business or hustle. You have income coming from real estate development. You have, we have about 4 or 5 different streams of income that we have coming in our house. And I tell my wife all the time, we should be getting a check every day. We don't get a check every day, but I'm working on it. That's the goal, to get a check every day coming from a particular stream of income that we've been working on. So Airbnb, what we've done is create an online course. And this online course is just released just a couple of weeks ago. And it takes you really from A to Z in terms of all the things you need to know about Airbnb. But you mentioned earlier about there was a lot of misinformation out there, right? It was a way to get rich quick, right? People saw all these different things online. Oh, I made $100,000 in, 4 months, or I made $20,000 in a week. And when people really start getting into the nuts and bolts, it's a real business, and you have to treat it like a business. And the pandemic really began to weed people out for people who were in for it for the right reasons, opposed to people who were just trying to make a quick buck. I know plenty of people who did arbitrage, and some of my hosts I work with, those are the ones who were most fearful. They would say, Baron, I'm nervous. I don't know if this is going to work because, you're spending $2,500 and you don't know what the outcome is going to be. And so I applaud people being, entrepreneurial, but you still have to be smart and use wisdom in any kind of business that you get into.
There was so much there. I want to try to work my way backwards. The arbitrage model, we have one unit that we utilize that model with, and it's a very close personal friend. So we have a solid relationship there. And that is the only way that I would recommend anyone get into the arbitrage space, because, when you look at the changing regulatory environment, not only on the city level, county level, state level, federal level, you can look internationally and see a lot of wholesale bans, proposals that are in the legislatures in different countries right now. And that contract that you signed with that landlord, that's still a binding document, and that monthly payment is still going to be hanging around your neck. Should you not have the ability to operate your business anymore? And so ownership is so crucial because it gives you the power to flex into other avenues to earn a return, as opposed to the arbitrage model, in my opinion. So I don't recommend it to people unless you have a very solid relationship that you can leverage and be flexible in. But also going back to, I believe I heard some Robert Kiyosaki in there with some, cash flow quadrants, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I love Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah, he's one of my favorite authors, and specifically for his view on passion, or his definition of passion. One of the best I've ever heard, and one I've used so many times in talks, and it says, passion is something that you love and hate at the same time. Something you love and hate at the same time. And so I love, personally, Josh, I love growth and development. I love to help people grow. I'm a professional coach through the International Coaching Federation, and I work with executives. I work with philanthropists and people of wealth and all that good stuff. But for me, I hate when people don't have opportunities to succeed. I hate when they don't get the chance to use some of their talents and gifts and skills. So I love to help people and help them grow and develop, but at the same time, I hate when people live in fear, they don't have the opportunity or the scarcity or their history or how they grew up or their experiences. They wasn't exposed, all of those things. I hate when people don't have that opportunity.
Yeah, and I find that conversations like this one help to open the eyes of, individuals to the different ways that they can seek out opportunity, because the spaces that we exist in are not often or always the spaces we're meant to be in, and just because we have a desire to exist there and thrive and do well and do more than just survive, it doesn't mean that that's the time or the environment that we're meant to cultivate our future successes in. And so it takes a bit of faith, a bit of belief in oneself to, face the unknown and strive for a greater version of self in areas that we don't understand. And so what I find is, just being open-minded, being receptive to, and putting forward the energy that you wish to receive back. Back to one of your points earlier about, the different ways that individuals can, monetize their time. Sometimes, the largest return on your investment is not necessarily the most monetarily substantial at the onset of the endeavor. And what I mean by that is, I myself am a notary, right? And there's many people that you can go online and learn how to grow a notary business. But I have no intentions of growing a notary business. I actually end up doing a lot of my notarizations for free. You know why? Because the community that I exist in is filled with, entrepreneurs and high-level executives and business professionals that I've built relationships with that are exposing me to a lot of different avenues of investment and growth. And those relationships are paying dividends, have paid dividends, and will continue to pay dividends down the road. And so I would just encourage people to not get lost on the face value of an exercise and to really lean into, what's intrinsically attainable.
Yeah. That's a great point, because I think we're so money driven, so focused. Our society is so focused on money. I worked at a national nonprofit for 22 years, and And Josh, I can tell you that was not my goal at all. When all I wanted to do was make money. When I got out of school, I was like, man, I just want to have a nice, big office, a nice car, the whole American dream, so to speak. And my life was, really interrupted by an incident, an event that happened to me. But the main thing it taught me was there's things more important than money, and being able to have businesses sometime, like some of my clients I work with, I know they can't afford my top price, but I know they need help and support. And I know that I have something that I can help them with. And that becomes, just as important to me as the bottom line sometimes.
I love that. I love that. So Baron, can you speak to one of your superpowers that you didn't know you had, that you realized throughout your business journey, your professional development journey, and how it has, helped sustain you along your path?
Yeah, I would say, I was thinking about this last night. We started a business some years ago, and it was called Right Time Kids, and it was a drop-in center for young people. And the model was, I had a vision of this business 7 years actually before we started it. And then I found one, I just happened to come across one because I needed a place for my daughter, and I was frantically trying to find one. And I found this business model that was similar to what I had in mind. And they told me how much it cost to get it up and running, which was about $150,000. Unfortunately, at the time, I was unemployed. I lost, or my job was terminated. I was a VP at an organization. My job was terminated, and I could not find a job. I went back to school to get my master's degree, and it was just a challenging time, that particular season of my life. And I was almost unemployed for almost 3 years. And I would have never thought that with, some of my social capital that I had, degrees and all of this, but it was very challenging. But what happened during that time was we started this business with basically no money. And I started raising money and reaching out to family and friends and saying, hey, this is the vision that I have. And I really believe this business can kind of take off and do what it needs to do, because there wasn't really a model. You knew of the traditional daycare, but this model was a little bit different. And I raised $150,000 to open this business. And I wouldn't have thought that, I'd never raised money before, but it was something that, because I'm very relational and people trusted me, I was able to secure funds without going to a bank, getting a traditional loan, because I wouldn't have at the time been able to anyway. And then later that fall, I took a temporary role with the United Way, and I raised about $750,000 in about 3 months. And so I realized that that was a superpower, if you will, being able to raise money, whether it was for a business or for, a nonprofit. That skill set remains the same, and you can use it across. And I have used it in different sectors of my experience and career.
That's an incredible story. I would actually recategorize that superpower and say you're not giving yourself enough credit. I would say the capital raising is a byproduct of the superpower, which is truly just the genuine nature and disposition that you present yourself with to the world, right? And speaking of the social capital, that's just something that is invaluable, and you can't really quantify. Yes, you raised that first 150. Yes, you then went on to raise 750 in a 3-month period, I believe it was. But what you really did was leverage the authenticity that was how you presented, how you interacted, how you related to everyone along your path throughout your journey. And that's something that, is touted and respected and appreciated and applauded in Eastern cultures traditionally. But when it comes to Western culture, you know, as you said earlier, the competition, the by any means necessary pursuit of the almighty dollar in this, you know, capitalist consumer culture that we have, we can shun and ignore some of the most important pieces of ourselves that we have to offer. And so, yes, you attained a high level as an executive in your previous roles, but that experience is not what got you the success that you have today. It's truly just being the human that you are that has continued to, you know, pay dividends and bear fruit to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. I agree, because it is that the relationships that we develop with people, the integrity and the character that we have that people know, that's a part of my brand. And so when people deal with me, that's why, you know, when I refer people to somebody, you know, I take that very seriously because it's a reflection on me, and how people view me and see me. And so we just try to do things the right way, and we don't get it right all the time, but with people, we want to make sure we communicate well enough to get it right if we don't. You know, and as business people and entrepreneurs, sometimes we have to make, you know, difficult decisions, but you always have to, I would share this with somebody the other day, you always have to admit when you're wrong, right? You always have to take personal responsibility. You know, I'm writing a book right now, and it's called "It's Not My Fault, but It Is My Responsibility." And so I'm really excited to be able to share this information with people, because traditionally we don't like to take responsibility for our action. And I was that way for many years of my life. It was always somebody else's fault, right? It was what somebody else did. But I understand, and that's how people begin to trust you, because they know that you're going to admit, man, I was wrong. I didn't do it right. Forgive me if that is appropriate, you know? And I think that's important, even in business.
Absolutely. You know, I find that in the pursuit of financial freedom and decoupling the time for money trade-off and reclaiming your time and realizing that it is your most valuable asset, the way to get there is through, you know, accountability and stringent self-reflection. And while, you know, there are many factors that are out of our control, like timing, our environment, a little bit of luck or what have you, you know, controlling what we can control, which is our mindset and how we interact with the world and others, accountability is such a crucial component. And, you know, when we go back to that social capital piece and, you know, people believing in you and being willing to invest in you and follow you along that path that you have for the vision that you set out on, accountability is key. That's how you build credibility. That is the number one piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And as a coach, that's my number one selling point to people when I'm talking to them about coaching, if they desire to have a coach or not, because that's the thing that people like. And I think it was the co-founder of Google said everyone needs a coach because everyone needs accountability. And if you don't have accountability, you're just not going to have the success that you desire. And I have a coach. You know, you probably have mentors or coaches, people in your life, friends and family. And even though we may get to a certain point in life, that doesn't change the amount of accountability that we need. And so it's really important.
Yeah, we don't know what we don't know. And no matter the level of experience that we have, like no one person has all the information. And being the social creatures that we are, you know, we are heavily reliant from a biological perspective on one another. And, you know, having that humility to open ourselves up and be willing to continuously grow and learn, find that foundational to continued success. But we talked a lot about success. I want to circle back to the opposite side of that coin. Can you speak to us, Baron, about um, a struggle that you've had professionally and how you've overcome that in the past?
Yeah, when I think about struggles and challenges, um, there's so many. It's hard to kind of capture one. One that I will share was probably um, early on in my when I was in college. It was early on enough to kind of shape my trajectory, and so I always kind of go back to that particular one. I mean, I can go modern day right now. My wife, we have an event business, and my wife slipped on a piece of plastic a few weeks ago, and she broke her ankle in multiple places and tore two ligaments. And so she's been out for the past 5 or 6 weeks, had surgery, and it completely changed, how we live our life, right? And the things that we do. So that's a challenge. But when I think about an earlier challenge that I had, I attended the University of South Carolina as my freshman year, second semester. I was going back to my dorm. I was at a campus party, and my cousin and I were together. And these guys, I heard them, in my ear, and I was walking by a reflection pond at the time. And I heard a guy say, somebody's going to take a swim tonight. And I didn't really pay attention to it that much. And before I knew it, Josh, the guy came behind me and hit me in my face. And I just took off running. I ran a 4.5 40 in high school. So I was, I had a little speed. So I just took off. He went one way and ended up getting into a fight with this young man. Of course, I didn't know the police came. You see two black guys fighting, of course, is a problem. And so they put us into the police car, and the guy said, this guy was talking about my mama. And I said, officer, I've never seen him before. Don't know who he is. And so that whole thing, man, really just took on a life of its own. And so here I am, a freshman in college. You're thinking you're at a place, to learn and grow. And here you were hurt. I was first generation of college student. So I just went home. I just wanted to be with my parents. And I remember my grandmother told me, don't go back to that school. But at the time, my first semester I had a 1.9 GPA. So I wasn't doing anything special. I was having a good time in college. And the second
Good time in the low country, baby.
Exactly. But what I was doing, so I was just enjoying college. So when that happened, I ended up going home for a couple of weeks, but I never told my professors what happened. And so by the time I get back, I should have withdrew from classes and just started fresh. Unfortunately, I didn't. I went back, took exams, and completely bombed. And from that time on, I was on probation. So they put me on academic probation. Now, mind you, I'm on an academic scholarship, right? And so the next semester, I didn't do well. I didn't deal with the whole mental, emotional side of what I had experienced. And before I know it, man, I got kicked out of school. And I lost my scholarship, and I couldn't tell my parents. I was so embarrassed and ashamed. And matter of fact, I'll tell you how ashamed I was. I was acting like I was going to school, to class, when I wasn't enrolled. So my friends would think I was still in school. And this particular incident happened to me, and it just really, it just took its toll on me. And I just, went from here to here really quickly. I got involved with some guys who I didn't know they were doing some things illegally, and things just kind of spun out of control. One of my best friends came from home, and he was involved with some stuff. And so all these things transpired, but I was a person who really just cared about himself. That's why I could wear a shirt like this and talk about service over self, because it was really self over service for me. And it was that defining moment in my life that I knew that, for me, it was God trying to get my attention. You got to do some things differently. You got to change the way you think. You got to change. You got to become more compassionate. You got to be, you got to be able to help people and make a difference. And that was the furthest thing from my mind. And so as a result of that, I slowly but surely started climbing myself back in. I did an internship at the Columbia Urban League. And the internship was, it's called Stop the Violence. And I was working with these young people, Josh, and I can tell you, they were rough. They were from the inner city, and they were really, they had a lot of challenges. And I couldn't wait for that internship to be over, because I was like, ooh, let me just move on with my life. And I knew once I was done with that was it. But it wasn't, because the same young man who hurt me, I ended up spending my career trying to help young people just like that. And so that really changed everything. And so I was able to go back to school, finish school, and get my master's degree and all of that. But it made me think about life differently. And so that was one of the ultimate challenges that I have. But as a result of that, I look where I'm at now, and I don't know where I would be in life, but I know now, at least I'm doing it with passion and compassion for other people.
That it's a full circle moment. And one thing I find we all have in common, regardless of our position, is that our past, our histories inform our present, but we have a choice every day in how we want to utilize that experience and grow from it and move forward. And to hear the work that you have done throughout your life and in service and flipping that paradigm. Originally that was, self over service, and now it's service over self. That's a beautiful thing. And it just goes to show that no one is irredeemable. We are all human beings, and we all, in concert with one another, can, be the change we wish to see in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So Baron, question for you. How can people reach you? I've learned so much from you today, and hearing about your coaching program, I find that the stories you've shared about accountability and, exposing the growth journey that you've been on is quite inspiring. And I'm sure that many others will too.
Yeah, you can go to Baron Damon, BARRON, Damon, DAM.com, barondamon.com. That's my coaching website. Or you can go to the businessoflifecc.com. And you can see the multiple businesses and the things that we do there. But just anybody can reach out to me. I would love to talk to them. I have free coaching sessions, what I call discovery sessions, that you can, just kind of pick my brain to talk about some things, some challenges you may have, and see if we're a good fit. I understand that all coaches are not good fit for every client. And we believe that everything that a person needs, they already have. It's just about us asking the right questions to be able to get that out of them. But everybody they have what they need. And we help them get to the place where they want to get to.
Amen for that. Discernment of self is really challenging on your own. And it does require, an external force sometimes to help you unearth what was already inside of you. Because of the coaching business, can you highlight some factors to consider when selecting a coach for our audience? Because, everyone with the microphone has themselves represented as someone they may truly be or someone they may not be. And just back to the point of discernment, can you speak to the audience just about how to identify a right fit and how to evaluate a coach?
Yeah, for sure. That's a good question because there are so many coaches out there. The coaching profession has exploded I'm talking about millions of people. I'm a part of an organization called the International Coaching Federation. There's probably about maybe 50 to 60,000 coaches worldwide. That's a part of that because we decided that we want to be trained on another level. Now, I can coach you based on my experience. That's great. But I believe it's important for you to have some other skills, just like any other profession. So someone who understands the coaching profession and not just, a business card. I'm not hating on anybody hustle, but you need somebody, if they don't have the credentials, somebody who understands what coaching is all about, right? And that's something that we share with our clients because a lot of people don't know the difference between coaching and counseling. They say, "Oh, I've had a coach before." I say, "Oh, when was you had a coach?" "Oh, well, it was my therapist." No, that's different, right? So you want somebody who understands that. You want somebody who can hold you accountable, right? We talked about accountability. If the coach is not willing and able to hold you accountable, they're not worth their weight of salt, right? You gotta have somebody that holds you accountable. And you have to have somebody who share your vision, somebody who is in line with how you think about things, how you view the world. You might not agree on everything, but if I say the sky is blue and you say the sky is yellow, we need to figure out either we can come to an agreement while we say that, or we got to go our separate ways. So that's important for people when they're looking for a coach. Find somebody that shares your vision. And I think those three things will really help. And there's a lot of other things. Make sure they have time for you because a lot of coaches, they take on too many clients and they're not present. And it's important as we having this conversation for, 45 minutes, people looking at their phones and they're, thinking about their next appointment and they're not physically there. I used to mentor a young man. He was 6 years old. We were in the car together. And I had a lot on my mind that day. He said to me, "Mr. Baron, are you okay?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm fine, Ryan." And I said, "Why you ask?" He said, "You don't seem like you're with me today." And here this is, a 6-year-old, that perceptive, right? And I thought about it. At the moment, I said, "You're right." I was very distracted. He picked up on it. And so as a coach, we have to be engaged and we have to be present. And if you find that your coach is not present, that's not a good fit for you.
Amen.
I hope that
is such a very. Oh no, it was spot on. It was spot on. Just because, in this media environment, in this what I like to call democratized everything environment, because we have access to anything and everything at the hands at our fingertips with our smartphones that are supercomputers, and how we can have food delivery brought to us, and we can be transported wherever we want to go. We can order whatever products. It's constant. Like, we can have whatever we want when we want. And now coaching is a part of that. If you want to grow and develop a business, you can have on-demand support. And there are many individuals offering those services. But when you are trying to change your life and be a change agent for your family, for your friends, that's a lot of pressure. And when you operate from a position of fear and lacking, you can overlook some of the details that are very, very important to discern the right way forward so you can avoid unnecessary obstacles. And, there are people who can prey and take advantage of the good that, people intend to do. And so I just want to, from your perspective as an individual with integrity and credibility in the space, inform others on how to discern, whether someone is worth the investment in trying to, further their business goal with a business coach.
Yeah, yeah. And it's important to spend some time. And that's why I always do this exploration session with people. And I'm very upfront with them. And I say, hey, let's spend some time talking. If I'm not the right fit, it's okay. I'm not going to be personally offended because I know how important it is for you to have the right person. One of my newest clients, for example, they have a lot of baggage, I would say, because they've had a lot of pain and hurt in their life. They're going through counseling and they're going through therapy for many years. And so as we started on our journey, I said to them, I say, can you see light at the end of the tunnel? And I said, before I start working with you, I want to know if you can see light at the end of the tunnel. And, she paused for a moment and she said, yes. I said, because if you couldn't, I can't work with you, because that indicates to me that you really still need the therapy and coaching. And so I say that to say, when people are thinking about a coach, they need to be in tune with where they are in their life, right? Personally, professionally, spiritually, mentally, emotionally. I have clients that run the gamut. I mean, pretty much anything you can think of, I work with people on. And so it's important for, that's why that relationship that they can develop with somebody by just talking to them. And if they telling you, this is how much I charge, can you send the payment? Yeah, I haven't had any conversations yet, right? But they're talking about money first. And to me, that's just a red flag, a sign that might not be a good fit. They have the PR piece down, the marketing piece. And I know it's enticing and tempting. And we've all heard, we read content or we've heard people talk like, man, I could use that service. Then you get into it and you realize it's not a good fit for you. You spent all this money.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. My last question, I want to circle back to just the entrepreneurial journey and the different quadrants of cash flow, right? So we've got the Airbnb component. We've got the coaching component. We've got the events services component. Our business is multifaceted as well. We're doing new construction. We've got our long-term rentals. We've got our short-term rentals. We've got our mid-term rentals. We've also decided to pivot into the group home and residential assisted living space. And that was in an effort to, protect our cash flow because, I like to think nothing is forever. And the disruptor moniker that is associated with businesses only lasts so long until they themselves become the institution and have something creeping up their backside, disrupting that model. And so from an Airbnb perspective, it is facing more headwinds and more challenges from a regulation perspective. And a lot of people are uncertain moving forward. I personally believe that the business model will continue to work, and people will have to be more strategic about how they pursue it. It is no longer just going to be, a ring the register type of thing where you buy anything, you put it up there, you're going to make money. Now you're going to have to do your due diligence, do your homework, and be effective. But in the event that, someone is in the market, like say in New York City or in Atlanta, where we've seen changes happen, where would you direct prospective listeners to invest or to, build a business? What other initiatives are you taking to grow your businesses?
Yeah. So, one of the things that I look at in business, one of the business that we own, we have a business partner, and it's called Survivor Friendly. So we provide durable medical equipment to breast cancer survivors. My wife personally is a breast cancer survivor, and our business partners are 3-time breast cancer survivors. And so we at a seasoned stage of our life, we're not just going to do stuff just to make money, right? It has to fit and align with our personal goals, our vision, and our mission, not just for business, but also our family. And so I say that because when I think about business opportunities, before, Josh, I would just like do anything. If there was something I thought I could get money, I was on it. My family used to pick at me, and it was like, "Baron, you trying something else? You're doing something else," and it was always something. But I'm glad I grew out of that, and I start understanding when we do business, we want it to be something that we care about, where we can serve others and we can still meet our financial goals. I was listening to Les Brown last night. It was some old clips, and he was talking about, he said, money, people said money ain't everything, but it sure can help you, right? Accomplish some of your goals. And the more money that you have, the more money you can, be philanthropic and help others. So just from a business perspective, do something that you really care about. You hear a lot about passion. You hear a lot about, do things that make you, happy and all of that. But I subscribe to do things that you enjoy doing. And there's 3 questions we ask people. What do you love? Right? Are you good at it? Or are you great at it? And the last question is, does the world need it? Right? And if you can answer those 3 questions, you can create, this business that could be impactful, whatever it is. Because, business is all about solving a problem anyway, right? I recommend the Ice House. Have you ever read the Ice House before?
Have me on.
You can check it out. I think you will. Yeah, they're probably the big book that you are reading. But it talks about how we solve, problems as entrepreneurs, and that's the first thing. What problem can you solve? What does the world really need? Another Airbnb? It could, the way you do it, right? Mm-hmm. There may be a way that how you serve people, how you do it differently, your level, even where it's located. I like the fact that with Airbnb, I used to tell people, my host, a lot, you can pretty much set up an Airbnb, like you mentioned, and it will do pretty well. But you have to do your due diligence, right? And we know that there are some cities that you probably want to stay away from. And Josh, I've heard this probably for the past 6 months, and people know that I'm an ambassador. I do Airbnb, and the first thing you want to talk about is the demise of the Airbnb, right? They said Airbnb is all you hear. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. Oh, and and I just listened to talk, and I said, my personal opinion is Airbnb was a disruptor, right? They changed how we vacation, how we rent spaces and all of that. The hotel industry could have done this a long time ago. I just read last night that the Hyatt is now doing these short-term rentals, just like what Marriott was started a few years ago. It hadn't really taken off. And so I think Airbnb still has a great opportunity. The regulation is going to be has been a hindrance. I sat beside a guy who was a lobbyist and an attorney for Marriott at a dinner I was at. And we had a robust conversation. And he said, Airbnb, I don't like Airbnb because they're always looking for loopholes. Like like no one else is looking for loopholes, right?
That's the name of the game. That's
That-
literally his job.
exactly. That's why you hire lobbyists to
Yeah.
do that. So I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for Airbnb. As ambassadors, we're helping people every day, right? So we know the opportunity is there. But you do have to be smart and strategic. You do have to be competitive in a way that separates you from other people. It's just like any other business. There's competition out there. And with that competition, it should push you to be more creative, more, have a better product than the other person that's out there.
Thank you so much for your wise words today, Baron. I really appreciate you sharing with the audience. And I will definitely be sure to add your information to the show notes so that way everyone can get connected and learn more.